Hi, I'm Paul Cavanagh. We're out here at Rob Lawson's property at Bungonia. We're here for grazing for Tomorrow Field Days, and it's been a great day. We've had a lot of people come to listen. We've had a lot of good speakers, and it's just been a great day. The goal was to show how that you could use grazing management as a tool to prepare yourself for better preparation for fires and floods. The basic format was to go on farm with it. So we've picked 3 farmers that we find interesting to be the base and provide the venues for each of the workshops. So we've had a real insight into how they prepare their properties for disaster management programs.
My name is Rob Lawson, and I've been a horse trainer, coach, judge for 30-something years, and have a little place in Bungonia, which was a training and breeding operation. Now I've moved into cattle, horses and goats.
Rob was talking to me about how he was on this big farm that was split up, and he was trying to get the advantages of that big farm back together again. And he was doing that through this community involvement and the landholder involvement, which I thought was fascinating, and they may even make a bit of profit on the way. Yet another different take on how you manage lots of small farms.
When I made my shift into holistic grazing, I pulled all the internal fences down, and basically the place is almost open, and I use portable fencing to fence off cells so I can move through the place however I want to. So I'm continually reconfiguring how we set it up. So there's been times where I've had 100 cells on the place. We put them up, pull them down, move them. I configure the cells to suit the herd size and the amount of grazing I've got and time that I want them to be there, and whether I need to go away or kind of make it suit what I'm doing. We started the walkthrough with going through one of my day yards, which is the ugly part of the walk. This is a really good example of understocked and overgrazed. So the day yards are kind of, by necessity, over-trampled, overgrazed, have animals in them all the time. One of the day yards in particular has been scalped. All the topsoil's washed down to the bottom of the bottom corner. It's in a pretty bad way, and I've been working over the last year or so to try and recover the bare ground with organic material and try and get soil to regenerate. So it's really important to kind of understand how much an animal eats. So it's a really good visual thing to try and get people to step out a meterage that they think that one goat, one sheep, one cow, one horse, whatever it is, whatever animal you have grazing, how much it eats in a day, and then that can dictate how many animals can go in a particular area of land and how long for.
In 1 hectare, 10,000 metres is a hectare. So if you've got a square that's 10 square metres, there is how many of those in a 1,000? There's 1,000 of those in every hectare. If you see, and that's where you come through. So a sheep is going to go along and graze like that.
Pretty low.
We're just going through to this paddock that Rob's been working on, that he grazes his animals through periodically instead of just a set stocking arrangement like these day paddocks. So this one would have had a number of stock pass through for a short time, and that's why the grass is in a lot better condition compared to this one where the animals tend to be here for 6 months at a time.
Then we went down into a good paddock where a lot of the nutrients from the day yards has been flowing. So it's a really productive little area. It's really happy, it's got good moisture, effective rainfall, effective moisture, soaking ability, lots of biodiversity, and the grasses are all with big fat leaves, and happy days. Nutrients that I've been pouring into horses has come down here and caught here. So this strip through here is just really lush. It's not had the goats on it, and this hasn't had the horses on it for a while. The regrowth. So you'll see up here in this paddock, I used to get a bit bent out of shape about the regrowth, but now I'm quite happy because it's just more organic material.
Your mulch is actually becoming soil, and there's no definite soil and then mulch, hay or whatever. And this is working, and it also means that your soil is going to be very alive. There's going to be a lot of action in the soil, and that's where the breakdown's happening. And this is sort of ideal. There's sort of the sort of newer mulch lying on the top, and then you've got your sort of broken down, sort of decaying mulch, which is your new soil. So that's what we're doing by making soil.
And then we went to probably the lightest part of the property, which is a fairly high acid content loam soil, and walked through there and worked, and you can see where new grasses are coming through, where there really hasn't been much succession for quite a while. And there's one patch there that had quite a bare spot, and we fed hay out there with the cattle, and it's really come up nicely. Continually moving the animals through the landscape, it gives the landscape quite a chance to recover. So I'm getting a lot more new grasses coming up, and most of them are palatable species, so it's kind of really working well. And understanding the impact that the animals have when they graze, and then how long the grasses or forbs need to recover from that grazing event. The better you understand that, the more you can kind of build resilience in, because your grasses have got deeper roots and they're bringing up more nutrients from deeper down. They're bringing up minerals they haven't been able to access because their roots have been trimmed off because they've been continually being grazed.
A resilient grazing system, I believe, is a result of good planning. It is nutritious. It also means that it'll grow back quickly once the animals are removed and you're in control of it.
I noticed resilience leaking out of the landscape before the 2019 drought hit, and I didn't know what to do about it. And then when it hit with a vengeance. No growth and no ground cover. All the ground cover disappeared, and it was just left with dirt everywhere. That kind of was the catalyst for a big change for how we managed everything. But if you can kind of make that change before you're forced into it by a traumatic event like that, you're going to be able to face the traumatic events without it being traumatic. Putting resilience in the system, I think, is super important, not just for my livestock, but for everything else that lives here. And then that in itself brings more resilience into that system, because you've got more ecology happening, you've got more cycling of energy happening. So then when hiccups in the environment or in the climate kind of happen, the system's able to bounce back a lot better and a lot quicker. And it gets affected a lot slower, if that makes sense. So if a drought's coming on, the system, if it's resilient, can hang on a lot longer, and then it bounces back a lot quicker afterwards.
The key takeaway is to get yourself educated in how your pastures work, get educated from the right sources, get amongst Landcare, join a Landcare group. That's where the networking happens, and that's where you meet the people that do things differently. But
when you first start on a different path, it can be a bit lonely, but you don't realise how many people around you are actually doing the same thing. And by having events like this and being able to meet other people who are doing a similar thing or have a similar mindset and throwing ideas around, I've learnt a couple of things a day. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's been a really good day, and the series has been really interesting, and I'm glad I've been a part of it.